You guys remembered when you were a little kid growing up, you had a bunch of like action figures just scattered all over the place, and next thing you know, you had that one Transformer, that one, Dragon Ball toy you had that was probably a knockoff or like at a dollar store, and some Pokemon toys here and there, and you just had like this big grand universe that somehow expanded across years and years of like lore and world building. That's how I feel about crossovers sometimes, and that's something that's kind of pretty cool about them. So the way that I started the intro in terms of, video game crossovers, the reason why I started that way is because that's kind of what a video game crossover feels like sometimes. It feels like all those action figures are kind of being put together in one setting, and you get to create like your own sort of version and story of like how these, certain characters from various franchises out there can interact, and it serves a lot of cool fan service for those franchises and a lot of cool, wholesome, and very just badass interactions between just two different IPs. And I think when it comes to video game crossovers, this is what makes them the most cool and what I love them the most about, especially as for this video, there's going to be a lot of crossovers that I want to talk about in particular and why I love those games specifically. So starting with this conversation going about why I love video game crossovers, naturally I have to present some good examples. And the first one, right out the gate, it has to be Super Smash Bros. Like, that one is undoubtedly the biggest crossover in gaming that everybody sort of recognizes, admires, and to some degrees respect. Like, listen, I know Fortnite is also technically considered the biggest crossover event in all gaming history, and it might as well just be its own genre at this point with the amount of like content it throws out. But we all recognize the OG, we all recognize the original crossover event, which was of course Smash Bros. Yes, there's also Marvel vs. Capcom, there's also SNK vs. Capcom 2, but just everybody recognizes Super Smash Bros. And why I love this one a lot is because you see the level of, admiration for all the franchises that Nintendo has sort of showcased over the years. Starting with Nintendo 64, you had Donkey Kong, you had Link, you had Samus, obviously Mario and Luigi, you had Pikachu. Like, those were the OGs that started the Smash franchise, and then, each and every entry, it just got bigger and better. And, say what you will about certain ones like Brawl or Melee, and of course recently with Ultimate, and like you just see that level of like that crossover mentality truly unfold, and it just felt nice to be able to play as your favorite Nintendo characters and just beat the living crap out of each other in one setting across various stages of your favorite franchises, and Ultimate really demonstrates that nowadays, with its fighter passes, with the amount of characters it already had when it released in December of 2018, the amount of stages, the World of Light campaign, everything about Smash as a crossover just feels so nice, and it's something that really speaks to the quality of like, this is something that speaks to everybody, and it's also its own entity. And honestly, I just cannot wait for more of what this particular IP has to offer in regard to this crossover style, content. Then of course there's also, we can't forget, Kingdom Hearts, and this one is also a big boy, crossover in terms of video games, because you have Disney characters interacting with the edgiest of swordsmen alive. Like, it is just funny to me to see that you have Donald and Goofy interacting with Cloud and Hercules in Kingdom Hearts 1, then again with Aaron, I think that's what he's called for Final Fantasy X in Kingdom Hearts 2, and then just seeing again just the wackiest Disney characters, all the wackiest cartoon characters, just somehow vibing with these Final Fantasy characters, and obviously with the original characters with Sora, Riku, Kairi, Aqua, Terra, Ventus, Roxas, all those guys. It's just super cool, and it's surprising to me that I've never had a chance to talk about this in the channel as well, because Kingdom Hearts is like one of that franchise that really speaks out to me a lot. I played this back in like 2017, just in the summer going into my junior year of high school, and I played the entire franchise just eagerly waiting for Kingdom Hearts 3, when it inevitably would have released in 2019. So yeah, Kingdom Hearts, definitely one of the biggest crossovers in history. Back in 2001, here it is waiting for Kingdom Hearts 4, but it's definitely another example of why I love crossovers, because again, you see a good blend of characters that seemingly would not fit, like the puzzle pieces do not fit here, but they fit really well. And like you see that with the gameplay design, you see that with the characters and the story, you know, with Sora, Donald, and Goofy, how they interact with each other and how they interact with everybody else, regardless if it's original characters, if it's Final Fantasy characters, and honestly Disney characters. Like, you see a really cool story unfold, and something that is super exciting to see for future installments down the line. Then of course, to kind of go back with fighting games, you know, I did talk a lot about, you know, Tatsunoko versus Capcom. I did a video about how that should be brought back. Obviously, you know, we spoke about Smash, and I did mention a bunch of others like SNK versus Street Fighter, then, or SNK versus Capcom. Then you have X-Men versus Street Fighter. Then you have Tekken versus Street Fighter. Then you also have Namco and Capcom. But my favorite of all of these is, you know, aside from Tatsunoko versus Capcom, is Marvel vs. Capcom. Like, Marvel vs. Capcom is one of those crossovers that really speaks to what happens if you let Capcom take the wheels of Marvel IPs and how they bring them to life in a fight, in a fighting sense. And it's just super cool to see just how much level of dedication they were able to bring to all those games, except for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. We do not talk about that one at all. I like that one is just trash. But you know, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Marvel baby with Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Like, there's just a style about this that really speaks to the crossover, you know, aesthetic to it. And it's just one of the iconic video game crossovers of all time. You know, notwithstanding Smash, notwithstanding, you know, obviously X-Men versus Street Fighter back in the 90s in arcades. You know, this was something that a lot of people also would want to see make a comeback in the near future with a Marvel vs. Capcom 4 or possibly with Marvel vs. Capcom 2 port, because it's high time that we get that. But you know, that's just something that's super interesting. You know, my favorite out of this one is obviously Marvel vs. Capcom 3, because around the time that, again, I was playing Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was slowly, you know, seeping its way into my video game psyche, and it was just super cool to see Capcom, you know, like Captain America interact with, you know, Albert Wesker, or, you know, Chris Redfield interact with Iron Man, or how Spidey would interact with Phoenix Wright, the Ace Attorney himself, or Amaterasu from Okami. It's just that idea, again, to go back with the, you know, action figure and toy analogy. It's just super cool to see these random characters again being able to interact with each other and just straight up do the craziest shit alive. In fact, speaking more on Capcom front, there's a lot of other like individual, you know, I would say niche style of crossovers. Like, you know, to go back to Ace Attorney, there was Professor Layton versus Ace Attorney, which was truly out of left field for me, because as a fan of both franchises, you know, super excited for Apollo Justice, super excited to do the Ace Attorney review marathon that I've been stressing, that I've been working hard on, you know, and also Professor Layton, you know, with the new World of Steam and all that, to obviously date this video by the time, you know, all those stuff happens. I just love how they brought those two IPs together and gave us a really good time. You know, the 3DS wasn't thriving as much around, I would argue, 2013, 2014, and being able to see, you know, Phoenix Wright, the Ace Attorney, shine, especially a year after his 3DS debut and Dual Destinies, and then have Professor Layton also shine together and have this huge collaboration. It was truly spectacular, you know, ladies, and like, it was truly incredible to see, especially when, you know, these were franchises that, you know, one was inspired by the other. Like, Professor Layton was inspired by Ace Attorney, with the same reason how Danganronpa is inspired by Ace Attorney. So it was really cool to see this, and I love both of those guys. They really marked a lot of my childhood in terms of the handheld setting. You know, the Ace Attorney games are truly incredible. Professor Layton also just as equally as good. So this was also something that was truly, you know, self-contained in its own way, but really, for both fans of the franchise, really spoke out a lot and like in the best ways possible. Lastly, but certainly not least, you know, if we mentioned Smash, we mentioned Marvel vs. Capcom, clearly we can't forget to mention Fortnite, okay? This is probably like the one and only time I'll talk about Fortnite. I literally love the game, don't get me wrong. It's just not something that I've managed to create in terms of content. But in regards to just Fortnite as the whole, why I love the crossovers, this particular IP, this whole genre, I should argue, like this is Ready Player One status of, you know, its own thing with the amount of just crossover characters it has since, I don't know how many seasons it has been, more or less. I haven't really kept track, but ever since it started jumping the gun with Marvel, you know, ever since Infinity War and Endgame, you know, you started having Uncharted and their skins. You started having Street Fighter with Chun-Li and Ryu and Cammy and Guile. Then you had Resident Evil with Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield and Leon S. Kennedy from Resident Evil 4. And I think also Claire Redfield is there to, you know, have more Spidey stuff. And then next thing you know, you have anime characters being thrown into the mix. That makes me wish that we have One Piece characters and maybe even, you know, Bleach, you know, Ichigo and all that kind of stuff. It's just super incredible to see just how far Fortnite has become. And this is one of the things that I really love about video game crossovers, and that is that you can be as ambitious as you can when it comes to these things, and it will work. You know, like Smash Ultimate was very ambitious, and it still is, mind you, with the amount of characters that game has. It is amazing, especially how it topped the last Fighter Pass, the last DLC with Sora from Kingdom Hearts. You know, Fortnite is that sort of deal. It is so big of a medium. It is so big of a video game, you know, franchise that it is awesome to see the amount of new characters they throw in, the amount of crossovers they're willing to make, and the amount of suggestions that they often see from the fan base to be like, okay, which franchise should we collab next, and, you know, get some skins and all that. So it is pretty cool. And honestly, as much as I don't like live service games, Fortnite really does a good job at ensuring that, okay, you do want to buy skins, there are also V-Bucks and all that kind of stuff. These are characters that are worth getting those skins and worth being a part of the season and all that, and worth playing the game for a couple of rounds, because it's just super cool how far they've come, again, with that particular medium. But personally, it still doesn't beat Kingdom Hearts. It still doesn't beat Super Smash Brothers. It doesn't beat that level of crossover. So hey, it is what it is at the end of the day. But yeah, that's more or less my 2 cents on video game crossovers. It's super cool, again, to see just how far two IPs can work together and create some of the most iconic moments in video game history, some of the funnest moments in video game history, and all that kind of stuff. And listen, I didn't even talk about Mario and Sonic in the Olympic Games. Like, that is also another icon in regards to video game crossovers. When you had the blue hedgehog and, you know, Jumpman, Mario Jumpman finally being able to work together and have this, you know, annual, semi-annual, quarter, you know, every 4 years kind of deal in terms of like Olympic Games and stuff. It was super cool. I would like an actual crossover event with them, like a Mario and Luigi kind of thing, but, you know, Alpha Dream's dead since, you know, 2019, which kind of sucks, but hey, it is what it is at the end of the day. My point being is that video game crossovers are awesome, and let me know your thoughts down below in terms of like your favorite video game crossovers. Are you also a Kingdom Hearts fan? Are you also a Fortnite stan? Do you like Tatsunoko vs. Capcom as well, or Marvel vs. Capcom? You know, any crossover that I didn't talk about, throw it all in the comments. I want to see why it's your favorite, what it is that you love about these things, and, you know, just drop it all in. I got lots of stuff to work on in the meantime. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you all with more stuff soon. Peace out. Roll the outro. You know how it is, all right? You know, I'll see you all with that next one. Peace out.